Welcome to USISPF Conversations, where we interview eminent experts on a range of eclectic mix of subjects and kind of use their expertise to break down complexities in the world of geopolitics and macroeconomics. And my guest today is Rajeev Kaul, a board member of the US India Friendship Alliance, a subsidiary here of the US India Strategic Partnership Forum, or USISPF. So, Rajeev, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Akshobh. Nice to be here, and we both are sitting in close confines. Outside, it's a beautiful day. I think we'll learn from each other and make the best use of this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's make that confines intellectually stimulating, and I'm sure. And I want to ask you, the U.S.-India Friendship Alliance. For people who are not as familiar with it or just getting to know it, it's got an ethos of building bonds through friendship, purpose, compassion, connections, and change. Break that down into policy and philanthropy perspective. What does it mean?
So I will speak from about myself and then perhaps talk about the organization, right? So I started US India Friendship Alliance about 20 plus years ago. And the whole idea behind US India Friendship Alliance was to make the relationship between India and US stronger and deeper and multifaceted, right? So what has always annoyed me is wrong and negative perception about India in US media. So that's the whole idea. That was the whole idea behind US India Friendship Alliance Inc. about 20 years ago. But then, due to a variety of reasons, we did this for 4, 5, 6 years, and then we became somewhat inactive. And then COVID happened. And then Mukesh and Gaurav and I got started on this journey again. And the whole idea at that time was crisis. We were in a crisis mode. India was suffering, and India needed help. So US India Friendship Alliance began this transition from its roots to where it is today. And as you probably are aware, and perhaps your listeners are already aware, what we were able to do during that period of crisis, right? We were the largest suppliers of concentrators to India. We raised significant amount of capital from US corporations. And let me tell you this, I have been very, very blessed in my life to know a lot of people. But during that time frame, during that short 6 to 9 month short frame, I have come to appreciate Americans' generosity and open-heartedness, and what they did in terms of their material support and non-material support during that hour of need was quite heartwarming.
Coming back to the second point as well, Rajiv, because I wanted to touch on some of the things you mentioned with COVID-19. The important aspect is the fact that right now, before we get to the COVID-19 aspect, is when you started the US-India Friendship Alliance 20 years ago, US-India relations looked a lot different. It was fundamentally not the relationship it has now, because India was not the country that it is now. The relationship has grown in trade, defense, energy, strength to strength. But the secret sauce has always been the people-to-people relations, the ubiquity of the Indian doctor, the ubiquity of the Silicon Valley CEO, the spelling bee champion, things that were far lesser around the time when you said you started US-India Friendship Alliance. So that's really gotten the relationship to where it is now, more than any government to government and business to business, right?
I think so. And what has happened in the last 20 years, Indian diaspora has become much more stronger, both materially and in terms of numbers. And Indians have started to flex muscle in the political arena as well, which obviously creates more momentum for this relationship, right? So, yeah, 20 years ago, things were quite different. Americans were just getting to learn India beyond this. The popular image of India is the snake charmers, sadhus, nagas, and stuff like that, and temples. That was the image, right, of India. But now, because of Indian businessmen occupying the highest seat of power in the American corporate world, Indian academics, deans of various prominent and prestigious schools, Kalpana Chawla going to space, things like that have transformed the image of India in the eyes of American, and then interaction between the two governments have started to be more closer and more substantive also, right? So as you and I were talking about before we actually formally started talking about the issues, India's soft power also has gained momentum, and it has become the the secret glue which is making this relationship so much deeper, which I think it's very, very gratifying personally to me, who is involved in a lot of initiatives about culture and arts of India and media. So yeah, it's all, everything coming together at the same time is what we are seeing in US India relations.
Yeah, that's a fascinating concept of all these various confluence of forces because inherently geopolitics changes when countries change and the people change. But I wanted to ask you, just to take you back to that despondent time during COVID-19 crisis, particularly in India when I think it was the Delta wave, the second wave that just, I remember seeing that just paralyzed the country. And of course, even the United States had among the highest deaths as well. How did the US-India Friendship Alliance get reactivated, and how did you kind of get through a very turbulent phase and ensure supply of, say, oxygen concentrators and other essential materials to people in India?
So, just to give you a little more background, I'm sitting at my home, and we are all worried about India and what people are India are going through. Gaurav calls me and he says, "We have to do something." I said, "Yeah, we have to do something, but what can we do?" Again, the basic problem is doing anything of such magnitude requires a vehicle, right? So suddenly, we both agreed that U.S.-India Friendship Alliance is already there. Let's use that as a vehicle to channel all this energy and all this support we are getting from people and transferring it to India. So believe me, we did not have a business plan. We did not have a blueprint. We just went by our guts, and one thing happened after another. And as I said to you, I have been supremely impressed with the generosity of American people, American institutions, and the way everything came through was quite amazing.
One of the things that you and I said we're passionate about is soft power because, at a time of hard power, and we talk about US-India defense relationship, which is also very important, but, at a time of whatever's going on in the world, in areas of conflict zones and stuff, the countries that really come out on top are the countries with soft power because it's people and culture and food and arts that draw respect better than, people tell stories better than governments can, essentially. And I think that's what soft power is. It's the Joseph Nye school of thought, and it's something that I've realized that people in the United States have now become more familiar over the many years with things like yoga or Indian food or Indian arts and culture, and that tells the India story better than necessarily any government policy can. So, what does soft power mean to you, and how are you using it as a secret sauce for the US-India Friendship Alliance?
So, since you brought Joseph Nye's name into this conversation, let me tell you how he defines soft power. I have his quote here. It says, "In international affairs, getting others to want the outcomes that you want without coercion," right? Let's say I want you to do something for me, but I don't bang that concept onto your head and use my force, physical or otherwise, to do the things which I want you to do. Without doing that, if I'm able to convince you to do something for me which I want, is soft power in international arena. Now you use the cricket. I think you said yoga, food, but education is a big part of this. Education, entertainment. I don't know whether many of us know that world's largest 5 entertainment companies, they're all US based. That's why US has this immense soft power all over the world because
Yeah.
Google, YouTube, Disney, they all drive this American soft power concept all over the world. India, unfortunately, even today, of course, Bollywood is quite popular. Bollywood is taking traction, and people like what Bollywood produces, but Bollywood does not have the cross-border appeal what American entertainment media has, and that's where I think India needs some work. India has to build institutions which are international and which appeal to global audience. And another thing which India lacks is Indian journalists are not global. They are not recognized globally. Indian journalistic brands, though they are very, very good, but they don't have the power which American media does. So these are the two areas where I think Indian institutions, Indian government needs some work to do.
No, that's a profound point, Rajiv. And one of the things, if I may just stay on soft power for a little while longer, your comments on quote of night really triggered some thoughts as well, because soft power transcends languages, and good examples of that are Japan and Korea, which are non-Anglo-speaking countries. In the last decade alone, you look at Korea with K-pop, Gangnam Style, Parasite, which won the Oscars. I believe was the first non-English film to win in the major category. Squid Games on Netflix, and even Japan for many years, from origami to martial arts to sushi, and these are not Anglo countries necessarily, and not people. All the people who devour these things, they don't necessarily speak Korean or Japanese. So soft power breaks barriers and it goes over. So and the irony is soft power cannot be done by governments, because then it wouldn't be soft power. So is there any thought of how much more soft power from an Indian perspective can grow to kind of enhance US-India relations?
So one of the thing is arts and culture. Also, I told you about educational institutions. Talked to you about journalism, and the third pillar of this is, in my view, in my personal view, is arts and culture of India, right? Which is 5,000 years old. It has appeal, and I am not sure whether you know this, but I'm a executive board member of Indo-American Arts Council. India's 75th anniversary, we had a 10-day long Festival of India in New York City, and we did it in all prestigious locations: Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, Sundaram Tagore Gallery. The point I'm trying to make is this: we presented India's classical arts and culture on the world renowned stages, and we brought in a lot of American mainstream audience, and they were able to see what India is all about. It's just not about snake charmers, it's not about temples, it's dances, classical music, and we had contemporary Indian jazz performer at Lincoln Jazz Center also. So combining the two, old to the modern. So that's the way to enhance the image of India in the Western world, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my dad's a jazz fan. I was raised on Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong, and Duke Ellington had come to India in the 60s, as we've seen with the coffee table book that we put out in 75 years. I wanted to ask you specifically on some of the initiatives that the US-India Friendship Alliance has. We touched on during COVID-19, and we're fortunate that the pandemic is sort of behind us, not completely gone, but it's sort of behind us in the rearview mirror. But work that the US-India Friendship Alliance has done in terms of upskilling artisans in rural areas, that's also a very important part of Indian arts and culture, as well as empowering widows, because it's we've known some of the social systematic problems that Indian society has had. Could you touch a little more about these initiatives and other initiatives particularly?
So what we have done, I think we talked about COVID-19 in great detail, so we need not go over that. Lumba Foundation, which is based out of UK, Lord Lumba has created this foundation in memory of his mother, who was a widow. She raised him. So he has this passion of helping widows. So we have supported two of his initiatives. One, I believe, is in UP, and another probably is in West Bengal. And we'll continue to do these type of events. And I think you touched upon artisans and in Maharashtra. That's what we're doing. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to help them bring their products to US and sell it to the overseas market, and at the same time support them in a way where they are able to do this in a much more organized way and create an infrastructure where generations can pass on the techniques and the skills which they have learned to the next generation, right? So, you don't want to lose that skill set. So that's what we are doing. And we will continue to do more and more So that's the whole idea behind US India Friendship Alliance Inc.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate your insights on that particular uh, on what's in store for U.S. India Friendship Alliance. You mentioned the generosity of of American people. Is the elephant in the room fundraising, perhaps? Because all foundations have the the question of fundraising, and anything that's non-profit is fundraising. So perhaps how maybe highlight to people listening on how they can get involved. Maybe a unique approaches to fundraising, and how can people's contributions channel that to the higher causes that you're looking for, and what's in store, what's coming down the pipeline.
Well, we are getting much more organized than we have been in the past, and as you probably know, you have been a very critical part of the team. We have built the website, and website is probably completed now, right, Akshobh?
It is. It's up and
And
running. People check it out.
yeah, people should check it out. And then, more importantly, what we are trying to do now is trying to do some local events. And one of the things which we are working on is trying to do an event here in New York City. It is going to be by invitation only. And the idea behind that event is bring out these artisans and their work, and we invite some of the celebrity types to that event and ramp up our fundraising effort that way. And you, Gaurav, Mukesh, everybody else have their sphere of influence. So we are trying to tell more and more about who we are, what we do, and why they should support us. And I think over time, this will all become a well-oiled machine, like it should.
So I think into my penultimate question. One of the concerns, or perhaps comments that sometimes people may say, as we talk about U.S.-India relations and India becoming this rising superpower, it's gone from to a G5 economy overtaking a former colony, which is a very karmic, victorious way of the colony overtaking the empire. But some would also, maybe the critics or the skeptical would say, can you be both super poor and superpower at the same time? And if that's the question, how much more can the U.S. India Friendship Alliance do to help get parity in and in aspects like education? Because India has plenty of qualified people, but yet we need to upskill on education, at the local level. So is that also a concern, to bring India up to speed, fix the lacunas?
So, what happens, Akshobh, in life is you pick your battles and just stick to them, right? If you try to do everything, you may not be able to do anything. What I believe. In terms of education, I mean, this is one of the things which we have internally talked about, and I think that's an area where we need to work on. And what we should try and do is we should send U.S. students to India and make them aware of the world-class institution India has in terms of education, and try and see. And that interaction, once somebody at the age of 19 or 20 goes to India and studies there for 3, 4, 5 years, India gets into their blood and DNA, and that stays there forever, right? So that's one of the things which we are thinking about it. We are talking about it. There are no firm plans. So that's an area I think U.S. India Friendship Alliance Inc. definitely needs to work on. Now, bringing parity between super rich and super poor, I don't think that's our objective. I think over time, these things play out and they become more manageable. And I think, as we have seen in the last 20 years, as country has progressed, middle class has expanded, that inequality is kind of, you know, getting smaller and smaller, but it still exists, and it is a cause for concern. But I think that's an area where USISPF and the industry and commerce and government bodies need to work on.
On a final note, Rajiv, you've been very generous with your time. You've given us your vision, your mission, the initiatives for U.S. India Friendship Alliance. But if at all, there's a 30-second elevator pitch on what more is the U.S. India Friendship Alliance and why people should get involved, what would that look like right now? 30 seconds.
So, personally speaking, Akshobh, my hope and desire is to work on this education front between India and US. And a lot of students from India come. I mean, I think 100,000 plus students come from India annually, right, to study here. My goal is we should be able to send at least 1,000 students from US to India. for them to experience India. And again, as a young person, they go experience India in India, and it gets into their blood and stays there forever.
Absolutely. Well, India is like a, something once you experience, it kind of stays with you and the culture only grows on you. So, Rajiv, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to more such initiatives with US India Friendship Alliance and have more people get involved in whatever capacity.
We'll try, and Akshobh, thank you for all you do, and you're a great team member, and because of you, we have been able to do what we have been able to do.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Akshobh.